And welcome to today's webinar, 2017 Funding Opportunities for Outdoor Youth Programs. My name is Severia, and I'm the Communications Manager for Transforming Youth Outdoors, also known as TYO. TYO was created to scale the impact of outdoor youth development and transform the lives of youth by providing best practices, tools, and support to individuals and organizations working with youth such as yourselves. We are a technology platform that enables those in the field of outdoor youth programming to learn, share, network, and build upon successes. Membership to TYO is free, and you can sign up at mytyo.org. This webinar series is just one of the many ways that TYO likes to connect you to experts and valuable learning opportunities. It is my pleasure today to welcome back Ivan from the Outdoor Foundation. Ivan is the Deputy Director of the Outdoor Foundation and oversees all of the Foundation's grant-making, engagement, and activation programs, as well as their many strategic partnerships. So he is a great resource to have, and we are excited to have him back. And Ivan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Severia, and thank you to TYO for having me back. This is one of my favorite webinar presentations that I've now been doing for a second year in a row because I find it so valuable. I think I get more emails about this PowerPoint or emails with questions that I can easily direct people to this presentation because it's all the kind of grant information that I'm aware of in my house for the next year. So thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to really put all this information out there to make sure as many people know as possible about these great funding opportunities that happen throughout the year through the Outdoor Foundation. So as Severia said, my name's Ivan. I'm the Deputy Director with the Outdoor Foundation. I've been with the Foundation now for 6 years. And I kind of fell into grant making. When I first came into the nonprofit outdoor space, I became a grant program manager, and that really has stayed with me really in my career over the last 10 or 12 years or more. And so I have a lot of experience with reading grant proposals all across the country for all sorts of different programs that are working to fund outdoor participation. The Outdoor Foundation is the philanthropic nonprofit arm of the Outdoor Industry Association. So it's really our goal and purpose for being here to really fund amazing projects and young people across the country that are working to increase outdoor participation. Through groundbreaking research, youth engagement, and grant-making programs, we work with lots of different partners across the country to really mobilize that major cultural shift that leads all Americans to building that relationship with the outdoors. In the last 6 years, the Outdoor Foundation has invested more than $4 million into nearly 800 not-for-profit and college programs that have connected nearly 200,000 young people to the outdoors. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done, and I'm really excited of the work to come over the next year and years, getting more people outside and excited about building a relationship with the outdoors. So just a couple of quick statistics about the Outdoor Foundation, now that you kind of know what we do. We have, in the past year, so in 2016, we had more than $1 million in funding that went towards outdoor projects. We engaged 125,000 outdoor activities were logged and recorded by college students across the country. We funded 161 nonprofit projects, and we worked to get 90,000 people outside all in the last year. And working with many of you that are on this call has helped make that possible. So there are a number of opportunities that I'm going to mention throughout this presentation, and everyone will have a chance to ask questions at the end. But just recognize that you probably see my email in your inbox tied to a lot of different grant programs, whether it's the North Face or the Keen Effect or a National Park Service grant program that I'll mention. And so I really do have a pretty good window into what brands and foundations and others are looking for. So I definitely encourage you to reach out throughout the year if you have any questions about not only these grant opportunities, but really any grant making in the outdoor space. I'm happy to share any knowledge or give you any hints. So the first grant program that I'd like to talk about is from the North Face. The North Face Explorer Fund has been around since 2010, and this is a major role model in the outdoor industry as far as philanthropic programs. The North Face is such an amazing brand and realized really before many other brands the importance of working with nonprofits and building this outdoor culture and reaching all sorts of audiences and populations across the country. So the North Face was one of the first pioneers to really recognize this, and they continue to be a leader in the field. Um, each year, the North Face Explorer Fund awards about $500,000 annually in grants to nonprofit organizations working in powerful and creative ways to encourage participants to experience outdoor activities and develop an enduring appreciation of the outdoors. So really look at that sentence there and really think about what kind of projects do I apply for? Um, and the answer is they should be really outdoor recreation focused, whether that's through leadership or stewardship or providing outdoor experiences. Outdoor recreation should be the main focus and thread for any request to the North Face Explorer Fund. Grants typically range between $5,000 and $25,000, so there's a good amount of cash on the table. New in 2017, not only obviously do all of the projects need to be focused around outdoor recreation, but specifically there's two categories that the North Face is asking applicants to put themselves into. They are encouraging organizations to either focus their request around environmental stewardship opportunities, as well as projects that provide overall outdoor experiences. So I know there are slightly different nuances where stewardship might be the main focus versus just providing an amazing outdoor experience. Eligibility, organizations, projects that come in have to come from a nonprofit organization, a 501c3. Many times school districts, public park and rec, parks, a lot of those entities often want to apply, and so we do have invitation codes available. For those of you that don't actually have a tax ID from the IRS, that's a 501c3 tax ID, I do have an invitation code that will allow you to bypass that process. But if your project is awarded, you will need to have a nonprofit partner that is your fiscal partner and accepts the funds. So just something to really recognize and make sure that you have that partnership in place prior to submitting the proposal. Another special element about this program is that there is a percentage allowed to go towards overhead, but the majority of the funding should go directly towards on-the-ground program cost, whether that's transportation, supplies, equipment, guides, insurance. You know, there's all sorts of things that are needed for the program to happen. General staff, overhead, keeping the lights on, those are things that are considered overhead. And when you go through the eligibility quiz for the Explorer Fund, there will be a percentage provided based on how much you're requesting that could go towards overhead. So check out the application, check out the eligibility quiz, and then let me know if you have questions. There's an email that you can reach through that platform. Oftentimes people ask, what are the North Face Explorer Fund projects evaluated on? And to be fully transparent, each of the applications are evaluated on a couple of different categories. Those are impact, values, alignment with the North Face, design, and organization and funding capacity. And so those are individual scoring elements that we look at when reviewing those applications. Again, just so you have a little bit of transparency in how those applications are reviewed. This is a national grant program, so we do receive a number of applications. But I can assure you that, especially with the North Face, every single application is reviewed through different review rounds, and the North Face employees actually help make the decision. So I really like that they own this program. It's part of who they are. It shows their passion. And again, they are such a leader in the space. This grant program is currently open. It opened at the end of February, and the application will close on April 5th, technically 3 a.m. on the 6th East Coast time, 11:59 p.m. on the 5th Pacific time. The link is there, explorerfund.org. Once you get to the website, you'll go through an eligibility quiz, which will then take you to a login where you can either use your previous cyber grant credentials, or you can create a new account from there. So remember that you can ask questions about this program. Saveria is going to be kind of collecting those and watching those, and at the end, we'll kind of run through questions and answer those. So moving on to the next opportunity. So this is a brand new grant program that I'm really excited about. And this is working with such a great, creative, and innovative brand, Prana. And this grant program is called the Prana Explorer Grant. And Prana believes that engaging young people through ongoing, and that's a key word there, ongoing outdoor activities is key to developing a lifetime love for the outdoors and becoming a recreation enthusiast. So the Prana Explorer program, grant program, will award 12 grants of $5,000 each to give organizations the resources and funding needed to bring not only new project ideas to life, but also to help build sustainable partnerships that will ensure program offerings into the future. So you can see the link to this application where you can get to all of the great information before you actually go into the application. There's also a preview for the application from that page as well. So a little bit more about this opportunity. Specifically, projects should engage underserved youth and encourage a passion for more outdoor adventures. As a result, positive, consistent, again, ongoing, consistent exposure to outdoor activities. Participants should become more comfortable with and aware of local outdoor play opportunities as they learn how to self-organize outdoor happenings in the future. So, there are a couple of key things here. One is the audience, focusing or with a special consideration given to those projects engaging underserved youth. And also the idea of this ongoing consistent exposure. So this is not the program to apply to if you're looking for a one-time sponsorship or a one-time event. This is really about those projects that are working with a population with multiple engagements, really building an appreciation and love with the outdoors. Another nuance about this program is that it's specifically focused on 6 markets. And so these grants will go specifically towards these 6 markets. It's also geared towards specifically 501c3 organizations, focused in Edina, Minnesota, which is really the Twin Cities of Minnesota, the Denver, Boulder area, Manhattan Beach, which is LA Metro, Portland, Oregon, San Diego, California, and the San Francisco, Palo Alto area. And to be fully transparent, there will be 2 grants awarded in the Twin Cities, 1 grant in Denver, 1 grant in Boulder, 2 grants in the Manhattan, LA area, 2 grants in Portland, 2 grants in San Diego, 1 grant in San Francisco, and 1 grant in Palo Alto. So each of those markets will be fully covered. And again, recognize that these are metro areas. So if you're in the Portland metro area, but not actually in Portland, as an example, you absolutely are eligible. Some other special requirements about this opportunity is that there is an expectation that at the conclusion of the grant cycle, that there should be baked into the program plan 1 climactic outdoor event that could potentially include Prana in a meaningful way. Whether that's inviting companies to, employees of the company to volunteer, whether that's inviting Prana athletes to participate in some way. But the Prana really wants to build a relationship with the nonprofits that they're supporting. And so this is one way that they can contribute meaningfully. So really looking for those projects where there's a clear and really easy way for Prana to be able to plug in. The other special kind of requirement for this grant program is that projects should have a local retail partner who currently carry Prana and are involved as far as being able to offer program support, promotion, or guidance. So let me be clear, that does not mean that there's a financial expectation there with an outdoor retail partner. What it does mean is that the retail partner not only carries Prana, but they're really working with the nonprofit, whether it's through, again, promotion, support, or guidance. That does not mean financial. That grant program is going to open on March 23rd, and it will close on April 24th. So that will be open for a 1-month period, and we'll be using the Cyber Grants platform as well. And let me actually just kind of mention that for all of these grant programs that I mentioned, they all, except for one, use the Cyber Grants platform, which many of you have used previously. But it is kind of an online platform that allows you to apply. It allows you to receive your award letter or declination. It also allows you to submit grant agreements, impact reports, so on and so forth. So it's a really great platform. And once you set up an account with once, it should work for all of these different grant opportunities. Okay, again, remember if you have questions about the Prana Explorer grant, please ask those in the question box and we will respond to those at the end. All right, the next grant program, and I tried to put these in chronological order, so hopefully that you guys are kind of seeing that. The next grant program to have on your radar is the Keen Effect. The Keen Effect has now going into its fourth year, which is hard to believe. But it really was, again, these brands are starting to recognize the importance of grassroots, the importance of working with nonprofits, the importance of working with all sorts of populations, but in really local ways across the country. And so Keen is committed to that. Keen is committed to inspiring responsible outdoor participation and protecting and preserving the places that we all love to play. And so the Keen Effect is the brand's way to support organizations who are dedicated to just that. So typically grants range typically grants are around $10,000 going to, again, nonprofit organizations around the world. So this is a global program, meaning about somewhere between 5 to 8 of the awards are actually domestic here in the US, and then there's somewhere around 3 or 4 depending that are from other international countries. So this is a global grant program, but it is a $10,000 grant, which is a higher amount, and it really is getting in with an amazing brand that wants to have relationships with nonprofits and really support them. So once you're in, you're in. This application is a little bit later in the year. It will open in May, and it will close in June. I don't have the exact date yet, but typically it's open for about 4 weeks. And so everyone will kind of see that announcement as those roll out. You can also check the website, which is keeneffect.com. And right now there isn't much information there that's new for 2017. And I do just want to mention that for this grant program, some of the questions are going to change. Some of the focus of this program might change. It's not going to move away from outdoor, but it might be focused on preservation or conservation more heavily than recreation. All TBD, but all of that information will be fully shared and updated in the coming months, and then the application will be open and more than enough time for you to learn about the opportunity and figure out the best way to apply. So again, if you have questions, please log those and we'll answer that at the end. Another great opportunity that actually is coming up and opening at the end of the month is called Paddle Nation. So Paddle Nation, it's a small grant opportunity, small but mighty. Specifically, the Paddle Nation Project Grant Program awards up to $2,500 to projects that are really resulting specifically in increased paddling participation. So any nonprofit that's working to get people on the water, whether that's through warrior canoes, kayaking, stand-up paddling, whitewater rafting, or competitive racing, this is the grant program for you. $2,500 does go directly for on-the-ground program costs, but it is specifically getting young people outside and on the water. Projects should reinforce the idea that recreational paddling is one of the most accessible and impactful ways in which young Americans are introduced to the outdoors. Some of the project criteria that's unique to this grant program, as we've already mentioned, it does need to specifically increase participation and recreation paddling activities for youth and young adults. It specifically should use paddling as a way to educate participants and provide them with the skills that they'll enjoy for a lifetime. And this one, similar to Prana, should have a local outdoor retailer sponsor that's involved, again, to offer program support, promotion, or partnership. Again, that does not mean financial. That just means support, promotion, and partnership, working with an outdoor retailer in some sort of meaningful way. This program will open on March 20th and will close on April 14th, so a little bit shorter of an application window. The link is there at the bottom of the screen. Again, using CyberGrants, you'll go to that link, you'll get all the information, hit apply, and then you'll be able to log in and submit the application. And again, that will open on March 20th and close on April 14th. The next opportunity that I wanted to mention is the National Park Service Challenge Cost Share Program. And the reason that the Outdoor Foundation is involved with this really amazing program through the Park Service, and those of you that have worked with any federal agency before, traditionally before 2014, when a project was applying for a National Park Service Challenge Cost Share Award, if the project was actually awarded, it literally was taking a year and a half for the National Park Service to turn around an agreement and funding. So we've been working with the National Park Service since 2014 to really help streamline this process. So this is 100% a funding opportunity through the National Park Service, and it is National Park Service dollars. But we, the Outdoor Foundation, help manage that process so that when an application is awarded, assuming that the federal budget is approved, we're able to award, grant, and get a check in the hands of the nonprofit in a matter of 3 to 4 weeks versus a year and a half. So we really have kind of changed the way this program operates, and has been a model for other similar programs within the National Park Service and other land managing agencies. So a couple of things about this program. Number one, typically awards are around $25,000, but they can obviously be less than that. But not only are the awards $25,000, but this program specifically is looking for matching funds. So if this is if you're working on a project that promotes conservation and recreation, environmental stewardship, education, and engages diverse youth participants in national parks, trails, heritage areas, and wild and scenic rivers, this is definitely the program for you. But notice the key word there is matching. So it does require a 1-to-1 equal matching share from non-federal sources. So this can be financial or in kind, but what this is saying is that a National Park Service unit applies with a nonprofit partner, and if awarded, that nonprofit partner or partners have to provide a 1-to-1 match that's financial or in kind. So if the award is for $25,000, there has to be proof that through the partners, $25,000 in kind and or financial support is also being offered to the project, which really means the budget would be $50,000 versus $25,000, just to be clear. So it is a 1-to-1 match. Now, the really unique thing about this program, and it's a little funky in the way that it works, is that technically the National Park Service unit has to apply for the funding, and then if awarded, that's when we start working with the nonprofit partner. So typically what we say, especially for this audience, is that if you're a nonprofit and you're working with the National Park Service in some way, a lot of times the service doesn't know about their own award, funding opportunities. So if you're a nonprofit, go to your National Park Service partner, let them know about this opportunity, share the information here that you're getting today, share the link, which you'll see is a National Park Service link, and let them know about this opportunity. Work with them on developing the application and work with them on coming up with the 1-to-1 match. But the application needs to be submitted by the National Park Service, and then if awarded, the nonprofit partner receives the funding and becomes the main project contact. Some of the other bulleted information you'll see here is that projects must involve a National Park Service site and a nonprofit partner or partners. As I mentioned, proposals must be submitted by the National Park Service, but if awarded, the agreement and funds go directly to the nonprofit partner. And there is a special focus on new partnerships and programs, diversity, and specifically focusing on benefits to the National Park Service and participants. So what that's really saying is that if you've been working with the Park Service for a long time on a program, this is not the opportunity for you just to find new funding for a program that's already in existence. This is really meant to fund new partnerships or new program offerings involving the National Park Service, not to fund already established programs or already established partnerships. And that is something that we really look at. This program is also dependent on a federal budget. And so as everyone's aware of the political climate, we have a federal budget that's been approved through April. And at that time, there still needs to be a full budget approved. So this grant program has been affected because only half of the projects from last year have been funded because it's based on the federal budget that was just approved in December for only half of the money that we need. So I just want to mention that this is dependent on the federal budget and does run on a federal calendar, meaning the fiscal year starts October 1st and ends on September 30th. So the fiscal year 18 application that opens in May and closes in July is actually for funding for projects that are happening October 1st, 2007 through September 30th, 2018. So again, running on that federal year. As I mentioned, the application will open in May. It will close in July. And the link at the bottom of the screen will take you to all the information you need to know. And you can also get to the application from that website as well. Again, if you have questions about this opportunity, please log those, and we will answer those at the end. The next opportunity that I wanted to mention is called Parks for Kids. This is an opportunity presented to you by the Outdoor Foundation and the Outdoor Industry Association. And this one's a little bit different than all the other opportunities that I've mentioned. This opportunity is really a way for nonprofits to get their projects listed onto a crowdfunding platform. And I know that there's many different crowdfunding platforms out there. But this one specifically, it's not just reliant on the nonprofit. So our service is really to be able to have a platform that collects all of these amazing projects that are working to get young people outside. And then we take those projects to all of our partners in the outdoor industry, and throughout the year work to fundraise on behalf of those projects on the site, and to get as many of those projects fully funded as possible. So Parks for Kids is an opportunity, again, brought to you by the Outdoor Foundation and Outdoor Industry Association, and it is specifically meant for school and nonprofit programs to get kids into parks and public lands. So using crowdfunding technology, the Parks for Kids program and its online platform allows us to connect donors both in and out of the outdoor industry, specifically with local park experience projects that need support. So how it works, go to the website listed at the bottom of the page, parksforkids.info, click on the link, create an account, and in 10 minutes you can have your project listed on the site, and then we basically take it from there. We'll work throughout the year of 2017 to get that project funded, and then we'll work on getting that check turned around to you as quickly as possible. So check out all the information on the website. It's specifically geared towards elementary and middle school students, so K through 8th grade. So engaging those that bucket of youth specifically with parks on the local, regional, state, and national level. Again, the website is there at the bottom, and if you have questions, please feel free to log that. And that's an example of what the website looks like. You can see that in 2016, we got almost 20, actually, I need to update that number, more than 23,000 kids outside through the platform. We had about 250 projects on the site, and nearly 3/4 of those were fully funded by the end of the year through a number of fundraising efforts by the Outdoor Foundation throughout all of 2016. So it's a pretty interactive site. It allows you to sort projects. It allows you to look for projects in all sorts of different ways. And it also allows you to communicate directly with the donor versus relying on the Outdoor Foundation to do that. So it allows the project to connect with the donors, and you can produce reports and all of that through an admin backend system. So the last thing that I wanted to mention before I kind of wrap up on the funding opportunities for the year is what else does the Outdoor Foundation do? So I've spent the majority of the time talking about our community grant making programs. We're a grant maker and a grant manager for a lot of different brands and public land agencies across the country. But in addition to that, we also really focus on participation and increasing outdoor participation in a big way. And so the way that we do that is specifically through engaging youth ages 18 to 24, so really young adults. Youth is not a fair term. On college and university outdoor engagement. So we do that through a couple of different ways. We have the Outdoor Nation Campus Challenge, where last year we engaged 90 schools that competed against one another to see who could log the most outdoor activity over a 6-week period. This year, we're looking to go really deep with 50 schools, but have more than 100 schools engaged in the challenge in some way. The challenge will run in the fall for 4 weeks, and you can learn all about it from the website listed there at oncampuschallenge.org. Another campus engagement program that we manage is our different ambassador programs. So whether it's working with the National Park Service or through brands like Merrill, we actually work to identify young people, leaders on different college campuses that work to get people outside, connected to parks, connected to the outdoors, and obviously connected to brands if that is the priority. So if any of these things are of interest, the reason I mention them, if you're working with a college or university, all of these are professional development opportunities for students. They're funding opportunities for schools, and it's really a great way to work with the outdoor industry in a big way. So if any of these are of interest, please feel free to get in touch. And one of the newest things that we're really focused on in 2017 is this idea of year-round campus activations. So not just doing the campus challenge, not just doing the ambassador program, but doing the challenge, doing the ambassador program, but also engaging our 30,000 plus young people that we're working with across the country and inspiring more outdoor activity throughout the year, as well as developing really outdoor nation cohorts of ambassadors, meaning groups of young people on college campuses that on a regular basis and a more informal, passive way are organizing students and getting them connected with the outdoors and doing that in a safe and efficient and sustainable way. So that's just to give you a little bit of an idea of the participation part of the Outdoor Foundation. And then the last thing is really our research. So every year we do a number of outdoor participation reports, not only overall outdoor participation, but we also have specific reports on camping and fishing, for example. And you can learn more by going to outdoorfoundation.org/research. So that's everything that I can kind of think of at the moment around funding and grant opportunities for 2017 in regards to outdoor participation and the outdoor industry. You can contact me at my email address, ilevin@outdoorfoundation.org. You can visit any one of our websites for more information. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Severia and we'll run through questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivan, very much. Appreciate all that amazing information, and we have a bunch of questions that we're going to get going at. So let's start with going back to the North Face. And actually, before we start answering questions, just to let everybody know, we will have the presentation is available as a handout in the webinar control panel. You can download that so you can easily, hopefully, get the web links. And we will also have the presentation available on TYO in the next day or two. So let's get going with some of the North Face questions. So the first one is the North Face looking for specific recognition as part of their Explore Fund program?
You know, that's a great question. And honestly, we actually took that out of the application this year. So, you know, the focus isn't really about how the North Face is being recognized necessarily. I mean, with any funder, there's an expectation that you recognize the partnership and the relationship through social. But no, there is not a specific strategic reason that a project would be chosen over another because of how the donor could be recognized based on the resources of the organization.
Great. And then are organizations eligible to receive the Explore Fund grant more than once?
Absolutely. So there is absolutely nothing that prevents an organization from applying not only more than once, receiving more than one grant, or submitting more than one application in a cycle. So absolutely, if you have been funded before, even better, because again, the North Face, like many of the other brands I mentioned, they're really trying to develop relationships. They've got a great support staff, Rachel Gray on the North Face side, who really is looking to get to know who they're funding and build those relationships. So absolutely.
Great. Does the North Face have a priority of large or small scale projects? For example, if we have a youth program that's offered throughout New England, is there a preference for a specific geographic location, for example, Boston, or is regional acceptable?
It's really either or, and it's up to the organization. What I would say is, where is going to be the biggest impact with the funding available from the North Face? So if you're asking for $25,000, but that's part of a $200,000 budget for a huge program, you know, that isn't the North Face. It doesn't really feel like that there can be a big impact from those dollars. Not saying that there isn't an impact, but I think that budget is too widespread. If there's a regional program that is $25,000 and the North Face Explorer Fund is going to fund that project and make it happen, absolutely, I would go after the larger number. So it really depends on what is the overall budget of the project and where will be the biggest impact with the North Face dollars.
Great. And then speaking also to the Explore Fund, what kind of projects are of most interest? Number of kids, amount of contact time, diverse audiences, content and focus.
Yeah, that's a great question. So audience is a big one. And when you get into the application, you'll see that there's a whole page really on population metrics. Who are you working with? Not only gender, race, ethnicity, where do they come from, meaning like urban, rural, suburban, metro, metropolitan. So there is a big focus on population, and there isn't meaning one over the other. You'll see that LGBTQ versus veterans versus underserved urban, they're all kind of equally weighted. We just want to know specifically who is this kind of unique population that you're working with. Um, so that's population. Definitely multiple engagements. So again, similar to these other opportunities, the North Face is not looking to fund a one-time engagement or take a kid on a one-time experience. It really is about multiple engagements, sustained relationships. Number of kids, it depends. Is it a wide or is it a deep program? And the North Face doesn't really have an expectation on one or the other. I think that, and this might be a question later on, out of the $500,000, that typically awards about 50 projects. And those 50 projects are very diverse, not only in location, but also in scope, in depth, in every way possible, including population and activity. So it really is widespread, and we really are looking to fund a diverse range of projects. So I hope that's helpful.
Thanks, Evan. You had mentioned that the Challenge Cost Share program has a matching requirement. Do any of the others have matching requirements as well?
No, they do not. Specifically, the Challenge Cost Share program is the only one that really has the one-to-one match component.
Great. Somebody had said that the Paddle Nation link, the link to the Paddle Nation grant isn't working. Is it not active yet? Or do I have to have a Cyber Grants account to see it?
No, that's a great question. And of course, I'm going to click on it and probably, nope, there it goes. So no, it should be working. And actually, I'm just going to switch to showing my main screen. And so all of you should be able to see the Paddle Nation grant. And I clicked on the link from the webinar. So maybe email me directly and I'm happy to help problem solve.
Great. Parks for kids. How much money is typically requested for parks for kids for parks projects?
Yeah, it really is a wide array. We've had some projects that have been just a couple $100 and some that are $5,000. I think that the sweet spot is anywhere from a couple of hundred to I think 5,000 is probably a good max. We don't put a max on the system, but I think that when we're really trying to fund locally and through crowdfunding, 5,000 seems to be from my experience, seems to be a pretty good limit. But if there's a project that's $7,000, go for it. But a couple $100 to, the sky. But this is meant to fund, smaller projects, not capital projects or ones with huge budgets.
Got it. And what if the complete budget is not raised? Do you still get the funds that were raised?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our typical rule is 50%. So if a project can raise over the course of the full year at least 50% of the funds, you get everything. If you raise less than 50% of the funding, that funding goes back to the Outdoor Foundation to fully fund other projects that have passed that 50% threshold at the end of the year. So, but that's kind of that is the formal rule that we've laid out, but there's certainly special occasions and circumstances where projects are like, I can really do a lot with the money that I've raised. Can we have it? And the answer is absolutely yes. So I think that my formal answer is 50%. My unofficial answer is, if you feel like that you can do some element of the project and make an impact with the funds that have been raised, we're more than happy to cut that check for you.
Great. Here's one. I'm working on a permaculture farm at a public middle school. We are working on 7 acres of land, and our mission is to transform the middle school yard into experimental agricultural and educational space. Is the Parks for Kids grant specifically focused only on parks, or do you think they would consider an environmental stewardship program?
That's a great question, and honestly, it really does have to involve kids going to the park experience, and it does need to involve a park experience really to be eligible for the platform.
Cool. And that was from, I believe, Jessica. But Jessica, I believe the North Face program was talking about stewardship components. Ivan, would this be considered?
Absolutely. So, absolutely. So, I would say that the Explorer Fund on the stewardships category would be a good match, as well as Keen. Definitely stay tuned to what the language is around the Keen grant as we get closer to summer. But the North Face is available now, and Keen is a little bit later. So, it's kind of nice that they're spread out. But both of those, I think, would probably be in the realm of eligibility for that project.
Right. And what advice do you have for incredibly small rural markets to get grants to cover a day in the woods or annual fishing day type programs?
Yeah, I think that I would say really express the need where applicable in the application. I think that's really important, and not using just jargon, but kind of speaking from the heart. I mean, I can tell you as someone that reads a lot of applications from a lot of different, venues. The ones that when people write like they're human beings and not robots are the ones that really move forward. So really write about the need and be clear about what that need is. And I'll say that, especially with the North Face Explorer Fund, you'll notice that when we ask about populations, we ask all these check the one that applies the most. And I think there's a category that's like rural underserved versus like just saying underserved as a blanket statement. So, specifically for the Explorer Fund in the North Face, they're interested in all sorts of unique populations. That would include the one you just described, and I would really use your voice as a way to really express the need.
Great, thanks, Ivan. For the Prana Explorer grant, how far away from the metro city can we be to apply for the grant? For example, we are 60 miles north of San Francisco. Is that too far away from the metro area?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say, do you consider yourself part of the Bay Area? And if the answer is no, I think that's your answer. If you said yes, or the work that you were doing was, focused in the Bay Area, I think that's where you can probably kind of make it work. But I guess I would ask you that question, and then you can kind of go from there.
Cool. Is there a way for my nonprofit program serving younger youth to engage or partner with one of the college programs? And have you been encouraging that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yep. So is there a way for my nonprofit program that's serving younger youth to engage or partner with one of the college programs? And have you been encouraging that?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is yes. When we first started doing this college university work, we really focused actually on connecting the campus community to the larger community around the campus, and really working with like local nonprofit organizations. It's a really hard thing to happen when it doesn't happen naturally. And so we moved away a little bit from that element, really from feedback from the colleges. But I would say that as you look more into the work of the Foundation and Outdoor Nation, and there's a college that resonates or somebody that you want to work with, I would be more than happy to be I would love to be the entity to help connect you guys and bring you together, even if it's just a conversation. So absolutely, if there's any school that you see kind of listed on our websites that we're working with or should work with, happy to make that connection or be part of a conversation.
Fantastic. And also, here's a question about bypassing the codes for the pending 501c3 status. Can you please repeat where we can get the bypass codes for the pending 501c3 status?
Yeah, so this is what I would say is that when you go to register as a user for the North Face Explorer Fund, you do have to enter a tax ID. And if that tax ID, they'll tell you that it's not registered or it's not a nonprofit, and then you can email the email address either listed on the site, which is listed there, and it's, I think, tnfexplorerfund@gmail.com, but it's on the website, or just email me, explain why you're not able to get into the application, and I can share that invitation code. But those are not listed anywhere. They do have to be requested, and only requested if you're not able to apply. They're not there to say, I'm special, I need an invitation code. It really is to help people that need to get around certain requirements for valid reasons.
Great. Here's a good one. And is there a program within the Outdoor Nation or Outdoor Foundation to help newer grant seekers learn the skills to write grants and help guide nonprofits to be more successful with grants?
That is a fantastic question, actually, and one that actually I've been discussing quite a bit with our board recently, is really putting together kind of we've been doing this for a long time, and we do have a lot of case studies, best practices, things that we've learned from experience of things that work and don't work, and what we look for and how things are reviewed. Currently, we do not do that, but it is absolutely on the radar for 2017, maybe early 2018. So, and if feel free to get in touch with me if you have additional questions. But something we're not currently doing, but definitely on the radar.
Great, and I would just like to address that one too from a TYO standpoint. So if you go onto TYO under the fund development category, there's a whole bunch of resources on fundraising, writing grants, how to build out your fund development program. So there's actually a path. So if you are new, especially if you're new to fundraising for your program, there's an entire learning path that will walk you through step by step how to build up your fundraising program, and it addresses individual donors, it addresses grants, all those kinds of things. So definitely feel free to check out the TYO Fund Development Program on that as well. There was a couple of additional questions which I think we addressed, but I would just want to make sure, because they're similar to earlier questions about the North Face. So I think you'd already sort of addressed this, Ivan, but in terms of measuring impact for the North Face grant, do you take into quantity, number of people reached, depth of impact into account, and is there a preference of one of these more than the other, quantity versus depth?
Yeah, and the answer is no. I mean, I think that it definitely is about, the ongoing relationship, multiple engagements, not just a one-time pass. And so using those kind of questions as your filter versus is the North Face looking for only projects that are engaging, the masses? And the answer is no. And also, I want to mention that when you see a number, and this is true for all these opportunities, just because you can apply for 25,000, I encourage you to really look at what the need is and apply for what you need. Because I can assure you as a reviewer on this and many other programs that we can see through those proposals that just ask for 25,000 because that's the max. So just really, and I mention that because it really aligns with the number. If there's an amazing, really in-depth experience with a group of 50 kids for a year and someone's asking for 25,000, if there's a good rhyme and reason why that program is costing 25,000 for, quote unquote, a lower number of participants, we would be all about funding it as long as it, hit all the other kind of filters. So again, there really isn't an expectation wide versus deep. It really matters about the impact and making sure the budget and the number of people align. Severia, are you still there?
I was totally just having a conversation on mute. Yeah, so what I was saying to myself was we are coming to the end here, and I believe that we have addressed all of our questions. If for some reason we have not addressed one of your questions, maybe please feel free to enter it again so it'll pop up easily at the bottom. And then also, once you close out of the webinar, a survey will pop up, and it's pretty short, pretty easy to answer, but one of the questions on there is there anything that we missed or any information that you wish we had covered? And Ivan and I will be looking at that afterwards, so we can also address things that way as well. And as I mentioned before, there will also be the fund development gathering on TYO, so you can feel free to go in there, ask questions. And that's a great place because if you're part of that fund development gathering, when you ask questions, not only can your peers answer and maybe offer peer-to-peer support, but we also have experts and other people who have a lot of experience with fundraising and fund development that can answer those questions as well. So it's a good opportunity to connect with people from there. And it looks like we did have one more question, Ivan. From your experience, what are reasonable budget to participant ratio numbers?
That's a great question. I'll tell you that I don't know if I can answer it as a ratio. I can tell you cost per participant. And so on average, somewhere between, again, it really depends on the experiences, but when I divide how much is being requested by the number of participants, usually somewhere between $10 and $17 is kind of the average. I know that's a wide range. But I mean, I do that math, and literally the cost per participant is something that I definitely look at. So hopefully that kind of answers the question, as far as, because again, I think the budget, if you can justify it, the budget can be anything based on the number of people. But I think when you do the division and the cost per participant, that's where you want to do the gut check. Does this really make sense? How much does it cost per person?
Fantastic. Great. Yeah, and the same person said taking depth of experience into mind. It seems like that was part of that answer as well. Definitely the experience. There's a lot of factors that go into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and just some background on why I think that. Like when I look at a proposal and it's working with a group of young people or a certain population, and they're doing one or two things for 8 months. Okay, does it cost $20 for that person to participate in that experience, or does it cost 150? And that's where, like, does it make sense, or does it not? And so that is really kind of the questions that I ask myself when I do that calculation.
Here's another one. Thank you, and you guys, thank you for putting in more questions. I appreciate it. So we're happy to keep answering them for another few minutes. So, can the funding be for staff training with the TNF Explore grant for a new program?
That's a good question, and I think that it depends. If the staff training is really program specific, then I think it could be justified as a program cost. If it's like we have to train all of our staff CPR, because that's important as an organization and we can use it in the program, I think that would go into my percentage of overhead. So it really is on how you justify it, and whether it goes into that percentage allowed for overhead, or can it go into the majority of the funding for on-the-ground program costs.
Great, that's helpful. Thank you. All right, guys, any more questions? Here we go. Do you have a preference for intracurricular or extracurricular? I don't know if that question is complete, but I'm assuming.
I don't think that there is an expectation either way. I think, again, it's about the engagement with the outdoors, and recreation. That's where, so whether it's an extracurricular activity or it's required, I don't think it matters as long as it's building a relationship with the outdoors and involves some sort of active, recreational element to it.
Great. If we have, I love the questions coming in. If we have an educational program, does paying teachers count as a direct or indirect cost?
Again, I think that if the teachers are only on board for like a summer program and it's really program specific, that almost becomes like you're paying like you're paying a guide, so it's a program cost. But if these are teachers that are connected to the organization in a larger way, and these are like salaries or stipends, then I think that's more of an overhead salary cost. So again, it really is how you justify it in the program. Is it program specific or is it more organizational specific?
Thank you. Let's see, I offer a year-round outdoor program for youth through our church, but we really try to engage non-church youth as well. Are there any limitations on any of these grants to fund programs with faith-based organizations or churches?
That is a great question. And if I could ask, maybe that's something that we follow up on. It is on the eligibility quiz where it says we do not fund, and I honestly can't remember if faith-based organizations are listed there or not. I think that in the application, that if faith-based is not listed there, then make sure that the application is really focused on outdoor recreation, and not so much on the faith-based element.
Got it. And somebody just asked, the PDF seems to be a link. Is there an attachment? So the handout, the PDF handout, if you click on it, it will open it up in a web browser, and then you can download it and save it. to your computer. And then also the handout will be available on TYO as well. So don't worry if you can't get it, we will have it on TYO, and it'll be easy to find in the fund development gathering. For the Explore Fund, I think this is going to be our last question for the morning. For the Explore Fund, is there any preference in age of those served, early elementary, middle school, etc.?
No, not at all. I think actually on the website it might even say like up to 25, 25 years of age. So no, there's not a preference on whether it's elementary, middle, high school, or some other specialized population.
Great. Excellent. So if there is, as I mentioned before, we got to wrap it up here. We're just at 11 o'clock. There will be a survey when you close out that pops up. So if there's anything that we did not cover or any question you still have, please, I think it's, 3 or 4, there's only maybe 5 or 6 easy to answer, like multiple choice questions in the survey, but there is a place for you to ask a question if we didn't get to it. So please, by all means, do that. And then you can also, there's general sort of fundraising questions. You can add those to the gathering at TYO, and we can try to address them there as well. I would like to, Ivan, thank you again for joining us. This is definitely one of our more popular webinars. I know it's super helpful. It has such great information for all these programs. So thank you again for taking the time to share your knowledge, your experience, and these great opportunities.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everybody for joining today.
Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.